Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. This is Brian Tully of Tully Law Group. Thank you for joining us for our Wednesday webinar at an earlier time. We've had some schedule conflicts, so thank you for joining us a little bit earlier. The topic today is the heart of elder care, which is honoring National Nurses Month, and it's going to be a conversation with elder care coordinator here at Tully Law Group, Raina DeDilectis. And we'll be doing it in just a moment. I just want to give people a moment to sign on. So I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so we're going to get started at this point. And again, my name is Brian Tully. Thank you for joining us. We are joined today by one of our esteemed elder care coordinators, Raina DeDilectis. The topic today is going to be the heart of elder care, honoring our National Nurses Month. And we're going to be speaking with Raina as, again, an elder care coordinator and talking about how by utilizing a nurse and our elder care coordinators, we're able to truly help our life care planning clients live the best lives possible. And when we do so as a life care planning firm, we have different goals and objectives as we're helping our families. And first and foremost is we're going to make sure that our clients are getting the best care possible, regardless of the setting, regardless of whether they are, where they are, whether it's a home setting or an assisted living facility, or even a nursing home. So Raina, welcome Raina. It's great to have you here. I can't say it's nice to see you again, of course, because I see you 100 times a day, but welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Brian.
No, you're welcome. Thank you. For our guests, again, Tully Law Group is the name of the law firm. We are serving Long Islanders with their elder care and their estate planning needs. I've been doing this for 27 years, gratefully, and it's been a joy and a privilege to help so many families. What we'll get into today is, after I introduce Raina formally and her background, we're going to start talking about life care planning and how we help, of course, with the heart of elder care. It's not just about the documents and the dollars, which is what I share so often. So again, Raina is joining us. Here, she doesn't need an introduction, that's for sure. However, she is a registered nurse and has been an elder care coordinator, what we call an ECC, here at Tully Law Group for 4 years. She discovered her caring passion as a home health aide back in 1996. Her diverse roles in healthcare have demonstrated a commitment to patient advocacy and improving patient outcomes. She is 100% devoted to providing safe, compassionate care, and Raina is, and I know this firsthand, a true advocate for her clients and their families. We've been blessed to have her, and I know firsthand again, so have our clients. So again, thank you again for being with us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. For those that are joining us as our guests, I certainly want to make sure that I believe we're good as far as audio, video, and if you have questions, you can certainly go into the chat box or the Q&A box. Sometimes one works and the other doesn't work, and we'd be happy to answer some questions at the end of the interview, the questions. Also, if you're interested in any other topics that we're talking about, our website and our YouTube page has all of our prior webinars that we've been doing for the last 5 years. We truly started back in April of 2020. As the unfortunate pandemic was beginning, we started going online and doing these webinars. So again, tullylawgroup.com or YouTube, Tully Law Group is where you can find our other webinars, which may get into topics with a little more depth. So without further ado, let's start off with Raina, the idea of life care planning itself. And I can share briefly that we started as a life care planning practice back in 2009. The uniqueness of it is that we're able to address the legal, the financial, and the care aspects of aging. We're able to help clients protect as many assets as possible. We're able to help clients get Medicaid to pay as soon as possible, at least most clients. And then, of course, we're here to help them get the best care possible. We're going to focus on the care aspect. So when we look at the care aspect in the heart of what you do, Raina, what are the essential components of the care aspect of life care planning? And truly, how does it help them, which is one of our goals, age in place?
Um, you already touched on how important the life care plan is, and what is very unique about us and why I love what we do here at Tully is because we really do get to incorporate all of those pieces of the puzzle. When we first meet with our client, we want to see where they're at, what their needs are,
Right.
kind of take in as a whole the entire situation.
Mhm.
Um, because there are so many moving parts to making a plan work for a client. We have to assess what their medical needs are. Also, maybe there's family dynamics involved, their housing situation. And a lot of families that come to us are in crisis when they do come. So we're kind of jumping into the middle of the fire,
Yeah.
so to speak. So
Right.
we have to put out the immediate fires and then plan to not have future ones, for a lack of a better way of explaining it.
Yeah.
Um, it would be great if we could do the planning when things were calm, but often that isn't the case. We don't realize that there's a problem until it really hits the fan, and
Yeah.
that's when we jump in and get ready to do the work. So, like you said, the financial and the legal part is definitely important, but a lot of times it's the health stuff that's hitting us right in the
Sure.
face that we have to jump into, and then it's very overwhelming. A lot is going on at one
Yeah.
time. So we have to help families categorize what is of the utmost importance and needs to be
Mhm.
the immediate, and then also the outliers that we can plan to, make situations better.
Absolutely. The crisis, right? The fire, as you're putting it, and and
Yes,
and a lot of times clients go from the frying pan to the fire,
for sure.
unfortunately, because aging is very dynamic. And if we had our way, we would have folks planned for and protected and aware of what can potentially come down the road. And those clients that I'll say are fortunate enough to engage us and learn all that before the crisis hits, I think that they have a leg up, and I think they're in a better place
Absolutely.
physically, financially, emotionally, and the outlook is brighter. Unfortunately, most of our clients, just human nature, comes to us at that point of crisis when the fire is building, and that's where we certainly have to prioritize. And you're going to be absolutely you're absolutely right. The care side is going to be critical, and that's going to be the lead, because we can talk about protecting a house and we can talk about getting care paid for, but the reality is that family is talking to us because their loved one needs help.
Yeah.
That's always the motivator. That's always the driver. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to build this type of a service and practice, because it's truly what families are craving. They need the help with this. It's their loved one. So you're right. Now, the idea of aging in place, right? Because
Yeah.
we'll help people through what we call the continuum. If ideally people can stay home, or a child's home, and then perhaps it's assisted living or even independent living, and then nursing if necessary. But how do you think our services help people stay at home longer?
Um, Absolutely.
Yeah.
Most of our clients do want to stay at home, and most people that you talk to in the community
Hmm.
will say, I don't ever want to be
Yeah.
somewhere else,
Right.
unless they're super social, and there is that group that are looking forward to maybe going to an assisted
Right.
living and having all those activities.
Yeah.
But most of the older generation, people that I'm speaking to, even
Hmm.
prior to working here,
Yeah.
people want to stay in their homes.
Right.
So, and they don't like change. Nobody likes change. So we have to figure out how to do that
Right.
safely. So it's most important when we're talking to families. about coming up with a plan is to really talk to the individual that we're talking about making this plan for. We
Mm.
can't plan around people. We have to
Mm.
include them in the plan.
Right.
And I think that that sometimes is a barrier too, because again, going back to when it hits the fan,
Yeah.
a lot of times all of a sudden people are swarming in and then they almost do that takeover type of approach. So we don't want to do that. So even if they call us in crisis, we want to talk to the person that reached out to us. A lot of times it's a spouse or a
Mhm.
child coming to us because their loved one is in the hospital or
Yeah.
they've noticed that there's a decline and we really need some help like now.
Mhm.
So one of my first questions is, what does your loved one want? Do they want to be home? Because if they don't want to be home, like, let's find the next place for
Sure,
them.
sure.
But if they do want to be home, then let's look at what the reality of that is. Is the home safe for them? Do
Yeah.
they have the support systems in place? Do they have enough people around? Do they have going to the finances? Do they have the ability to pay for the care or maybe the modifications in the home that are necessary? So all of this is it again, it's a big puzzle. And so having someone like an elder care coordinator on service with the family can just help guide and direct them along that way. Because if people are doing it without someone, it can be very overwhelming and it's hard to prioritize, like you said earlier. And you can't tackle everything in one fell swoop. It would be great, but that's not usually the way things work.
Yeah, yeah,
So
sure.
in our role here, we have the unique ability to come in, see things from a broader picture with this outside knowledge, and we have a lot of resources that we've gathered that the families may not necessarily have the ability to get on their own. And that's why I'm here. That's why my coworkers are here, is to help guide our families with that. We can see an issue where maybe the family, well, that's the way we were always doing it. We didn't realize that that was a problem. And maybe it's not a problem, but maybe there's another way of looking at things, which is why we often consult a professional to help us when we're in a challenge.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's our role here to do that for our
Right.
families.
And that's how we're able to keep, the how do you eat an elephant, right? It's one bite at a
Yes,
time.
exactly.
And the idea is if the goal is to stay home, we will do all that we can to make sure that happens.
Absolutely. We have most of our clients do want to be home,
Yeah,
and we are very successful in keeping them
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Even when people decline, there is the ability to bring in more resources, but it has to make sense for that family
Right,
too.
right.
So all along the way
hmm
of our continuum and our continuance with the families, we
hmm
are providing check-ins and making sure
Right,
and giving them what to look for and when to contact me so that before there is another crisis, we
right.
can kind of, modify. Plans have to modify sometimes too. Sometimes
Sure.
we come up with an original plan and that didn't work, but now we can pivot and
Pivot.
we'll work together to make the best next scenario.
Good. So great overview of what we do, who you are, and what you and your colleagues here at Tully do. So if we're talking to families and addressing families that are really getting into this for the first time, how does a family know when it's time for them to start seeking an actual caregiver or an aide? There's different things that people may not necessarily know to do. It's very typical for a child or a spouse to take care of their wife or their dad because they're the child, they're the spouse, and they live in the house or they're nearby.
Sure.
But there does come a time often when you really do need to get outside help. And that could be the caregiver itself, or it could be a firm like ours. So please talk to
Right.
that a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question. I think that's very unique and based on the family
Yeah.
dynamics themselves as well. So a a family usually people aren't going to ask for help ahead of time is what I guess I want to say. Very often the older individual, and it's usually an older individual that we're talking about, doesn't want to ask for help because they don't want to burden their family.
Right.
So if we do have family that's close by and
Mhm.
visiting often, it's I think important to be looking for these little cues? You
Mhm.
know, have we had to go to the doctor more? Have we noticed a physical decline in mom or dad?
Yeah.
Are we noticing that the house isn't being able to be taken care of the
Right.
way that maybe it was? So we don't want to wait again. We don't want to wait until it gets so huge that now
Yeah.
we need to fix
Right.
everything. We need to keep our eyes and ears open, you know, and see, like if it's just the housekeeping aspect of it, maybe
Yeah.
we can start trickling in somebody to do the housekeeping. If it's too much for the individual themselves, a lot of kids do pitch in and they do, but
Mm.
we also need to know our own individual limits too, because if it's getting stressful for us to be
Mhm.
helping our parents,
Right.
how stressful is it for the parent that doesn't even have the help?
Sure.
So we have to keep our open minds as well as children and loved ones to our elderly parents, that they do need help. They hate to ask for help. We're now trying to help them, and we don't think that we should have to ask somebody else
Yeah.
to help. At some point, we have to realize that there's boundaries to
Mhm.
everything, and that's why they have people that do exactly what we're looking for.
Mhm.
There are aides out there are housekeepers out there are
Mhm.
transportation companies, there are
Right.
all kinds of things that we can utilize, and
Mhm.
a lot of them utilize them in our own life. If we have a housekeeper for ourselves once a week because we're working people and we're running around after the kids, maybe mom needs that too. Maybe it's not
Mhm.
every week, maybe it's twice a month.
Right.
But when our load is high, think about the elderly individual that
Sure.
can't physically do as much too. So we have to keep our eyes and ears open for those little cues
Mhm.
and then start talking about what kind of things can just make our lives easier before
Sure.
it is a huge crisis.
Yeah. Easier and safer, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Oh, well, safer
yeah.
without a doubt. Again, with the physical decline, you know, if mom or dad isn't walking as well as they used to,
Yeah.
are we making sure that they've gone to the doctor? Is there a physical reason? Is it just because now we're just not moving as well as we used to? So do they
Mhm.
need maybe some durable medical equipment like a cane or a walker? Do they need physical therapy?
Yeah.
And then with all of that, do we have that rail up in the bathroom? Is
Yeah.
it, you know, so
Stairs,
yes,
all of those things. Yeah.
there's a lot, but there's a lot that can be done too to keep people
Mhm.
safely at home.
Yes, good point. And you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to address, the caregiver.
Yeah,
So the family caregiver, and we can be sitting in a consultation with a wife who is caring for her aging husband with a dementia diagnosis or something
sure.
similar, and she has for the last 4 or 5 years done everything she can to take care of her husband. And we will always address the wife as such a critical part of what we're doing, because people come in thinking we got a plan for dad needs help, my husband needs help, what have you. But we all know the reality is that if mom doesn't take care of herself, if
Yes.
mom as the caregiver doesn't address or get the assistance she needs for her husband, then and that whole idea of self-care, then she as a caregiver is going to start to decline. and
Yeah.
and burnout is real. Burnout is real.
Burnout is extremely real, as is physical injury,
Yeah.
right? So whenever we meet with a couple, I always want to make sure that the caregiver spouse is doing okay too,
Hmm.
and not just, yes, I'm doing okay, Raina. I
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
know,
right. You
I
got to
need
peel
to,
that away. Yeah.
right, we have to get past that. And
Yeah.
that's why that's why it's awesome too that we get to work with our families as long as we do,
Yeah.
because it's not all discovered in this one, you know, in the
Yeah.
initial visit.
Yeah.
You know, they only tell you this much, and then we have to peel back the onion, like you like to say. So I want to make sure that the caregiver is having the resources that they need, that they're getting a break, that they're not hurting themselves, that they are making sure that they're not taking their spouse to all the appointments, but they haven't even had their lab work
Right.
checked
Exactly.
in a year and a half. Because
Right.
God forbid something happens to that caregiver, now we're really in a pickle,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
now, and the kids are now dealing with two sick parents, which happens a lot. And you know what? Even when we plan super well, things still happen then, and we'll have to pivot at that point too.
Yeah.
But we want to make sure that the caregivers have the resources
Hmm.
that they need, and
Yep.
that they're also having time for themselves. And also get them used to the idea that it's okay
Mm,
and not have to do everything. I think that's what a lot of people really, really struggle with because they feel that they're supposed to be doing this, right?
mhm,
This is my family
mhm,
and this is my husband. I am supposed to take care of him and
mhm.
this is my job. It is. And that's a lovely sentiment and a wonderful thought. And
Right.
we want you to do everything that you can, but not at your own detriment. We need to make sure that we take care of you too. So
Yeah.
we have to come up with a plan that's going to support you wanting to still be
Mhm,
involved, but
mhm.
also not hurting yourself emotionally, physically
Yeah.
at the same time.
Sure. There's two points I just want to add.
Yes,
It's the old airplane analogy, right? You got to put your own oxygen mask on
absolutely.
before you can help other people. So that's
Yep.
that's crucial for our caregivers that are watching now.
Caregivers really don't, that's not something in the forefront of your mind. You're
Yeah,
always worried about everybody else,
right.
and you don't take care of yourself.
Right. So
Uh,
that's always a part of the equation.
yes,
The
for
other
sure.
part is, and we see families like this, and this is where crises occur, is you have to have a plan B. The plan A is mom bending over backwards, taking care of everybody else but herself.
Yes,
And then again, what happens if something happens to mom? So by getting the appropriate resources and support in place before something happens to mom, again, we want to avoid that at all costs.
of course.
Then we have the structure, we have the plan lined up. So there's significant, not just financial value, but there's significant emotional and physical value in making sure you have that structure and that framework supporting the family.
Absolutely.
And that's what we do, and that's what you do. So going back to the home environment,
Yes.
what are some of the specific strategies, or what can we do to help a senior maintain independence in the home, whether married or not? Let's say they're in the home by themselves. How can we help them as they're aging and perhaps dealing with a certain diagnosis? How do we help them maintain independence?
Um, a lot of seniors are living alone and living alone in their homes that they've owned for many, many years, and they never want to give that up.
Right.
So, here we actually go to the client's home and assess the situation. And
Mhm.
when I'm doing that, I'm looking around, I'm seeing what might need to be done, what could be made
Mm.
safer. Are there stairs? Is it how hard is it to get in and out of the house? Is there, God forbid, there was an emergency? Is there a smoke detector? I mean, like even
Are there
simple.
extension cords everywhere?
Right. Is
Right.
there a ton of clutter? I mean,
Mhm.
people have stuff, but are there clear pathways? We want to
Yeah.
make sure physically that the home is able to be navigated
Right.
by the client safely. Then we'll talk about, okay, so what is your daily plan every day? We want to know how they're doing those activities of daily living. Those are the things we do
Sure.
every day. The walking and the dressing and the eating and the showering.
Right.
And I get very nosy. I want to know how they're completing these tasks and how well that they're getting done. And also, are they happy with the way that they're getting done? Maybe somebody's only showering once a week, and that's fine as long as that's all that they need, but
Hmm.
are they doing it safely? So do they need a grab bar? Do they need a shower bench? A lot of these pieces of equipment are covered by Medicare, and people don't even know that they can have access to them. So we will discuss all of those things. Are there scatter rugs everywhere that we're going to be tripping on,
Hmm.
and maybe people like that, but it doesn't make sense for the room anymore. Do we need a
Yeah.
hospital bed? I've literally helped families like redesign rooms just to make it because they
Yeah.
don't think about it ahead of time. Oh, well, I'm leaning on this bookcase. Well, the bookcase is rickety, and then we're going to go down, and that's going to be, a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
How about the whole kitchen area? Are we even still cooking? And if we're not cooking, why aren't we cooking? Did we
Mm.
leave the stove on? Are we forgetting? Is it
Right.
just too dangerous? I can't bend down. Okay, so then are we getting the nutrition we need? Like
Mm.
there are food delivery services. There's a lot of things in out there that we can provide resources for our families
Hmm.
that they don't even think of. And a
Right.
lot of people, oh, I've been doing this for years and I'm fine just eating a peanut butter sandwich every day. Okay, but would you like to eat more? Well, yeah, but it's too much trouble. But it's really not. Let me help you figure out how to get the food in.
Yeah.
We use a lot of delivery services. A lot of
Mm.
families will offer to do this for their parent.
Hmm.
The kids will do, oh, I don't want you to have any trouble. But then sometimes when I come in and
Mm.
I suggested, oh, Raina said, and now,
Now it
and
makes
to be
sense.
fair, the kid already mentioned it, maybe, but they didn't get the credit, but I do. But you know what? We're all on the same team. So as long as the individual is getting what
Mhm.
they need and able to stay at home safely, and it's a team effort,
Sure.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
And then we'll follow up and make sure that that everything that we thought of,
Hmm.
um, is there. A lot of transportation services. A lot of people don't realize they can get physical therapy at home in the community, and they haven't had it in a while. And I say, why not? It's covered by your insurance. If we
Hmm.
can get a doctor's script, let's get it in there. It can get you
Right.
moving around better. And maybe
Yeah.
there's a safer way than what you're doing now to transfer.
Sure.
And, usually after me asking 2 or 3 times, then they'll
Yeah.
agree.
No, don't worry.
We'll
No,
get
don't
them
worry.
in,
Sure.
and we'll get some other
Yeah.
ideas of
Hmm.
how to make things safer at home. But there's a lot that can be done in a person's space to
Hmm.
make it safer and able for them to be home safely. Sometimes it's just lighting. We've
Yeah.
added having a client come home, actually today. She's getting discharged from a facility today, and
Hmm.
I had met with the family and suggested some, simple modifications. They got some lighting, we rearranged some furniture.
Right.
They had a bathroom door that didn't open all the way, like, so it would
Hmm.
have been a tight squeeze.
Right.
They replaced that with an accordion door. We
Hmm.
got a cutout. So it was fairly easy stuff, but
Hmm.
they really appreciated me looking at it because to them, this was the way that they had always done it,
Yeah.
and they didn't know everything. But we made a punch list. They got
Hmm.
through it.
Right.
Lady's coming home today, and I can't wait to
Good.
hear how she's
That's
doing.
great. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is awesome. That is a rewarding time.
Yes.
And just a reminder, if folks watching, if you have questions, you can go to the chat or the Q&A box, enter your question, and Raina and I will deal with that later. Also, what you're hearing is Raina explain really again what we call the heart of elder care. That's our life care planning service. And Raina is a part of a team of elder care coordinators that work together with our Medicaid team if Medicaid is necessary to pay for the care itself, and work with our planning team where we're able to implement different planning and protection strategies like irrevocable trusts. All three of those, the care, the Medicaid financial part, and the legal protection part, fall under the umbrella again of this life care plan that we offer here throughout New York and Long Island. So Raina, if we're again folks that are watching and listening, what are some effective approaches for a child, a spouse to initiate conversation about with parents that are aging? How do they initiate conversation about future care needs and planning and so forth? So how can this topic come up without the child looking like the bad guy?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
Well, I would suggest that it not come up during a crisis,
Okay, good point.
if possible.
Yeah.
Um, I've had to have this critical conversation myself,
Mm,
and it is tough.
hmm.
However, if there is a time,
Right.
maybe not a holiday, not when there's a
Mm,
million people around,
right.
when you're actually just doing a check-in with
Mm,
your parent, start with simple questions. How you feeling lately? How's it
right.
going? What's going on at home? I try to pick up these little cues and, ask your parent, you know, I want to talk to you about something because I don't want a crisis to come
Yeah.
up and then we have to make a rush decision.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about, the future? And would you like to stay home if you're not able to be as independent as you are now? You can
Mhm.
even pose it to somebody as, I was talking to my friend the other day and
Yeah.
she's having a really tough time with her mom. Her mom got sick
Right.
and she had to get an aid. And it made me think I should be having a conversation with you, mom or dad,
Mhm. Mhm.
about this because right now you're doing great, but in the chance that you do have some challenges in the
Mhm.
future,
Mhm.
I don't want to wait till then. So I care and I want to hear what your feelings are on the subject so that we can kind of make that plan together. I mean, that's the ideal scenario, Brian,
Sure.
to be able to talk to somebody beforehand. It's not a fun conversation. People don't want to have those kind of conversations. But if you phrase it in a way that it comes from a place of caring,
Mhm.
a, a place of that you want to include them in the planning,
Sure.
not that you're taking over, because
Mhm.
I think that's where a lot of families kind of misstep too, that,
Mm.
we can't deal with this anymore. You need to listen. We need to get in there and fix everything. And this is that puts the person on a defensive, right? Like that they're doing
Mhm.
something wrong.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, most of the time we're talking about our parents that did a pretty great job raising us. So these are adults who are educated
Mhm.
and who have lived in, independently for so long.
Mhm.
They don't want to bother us. They don't want to ask us for help. It's really, they don't want to be a burden. They want us to live our lives and deal with our children and our careers
Mhm.
and not have
Mhm.
to ever bother us. So
Right.
if we can come to them from a place of caring and
Mhm.
concern ahead of time,
Sure.
like that would be great. Just like not to liken it to something silly, but like instead of planning a vacation or the summer thing, Mom, I'm thinking about the future.
Mhm.
And I know what I want to do when I retire. I know you're already retired now, but did you ever think you want to move? Do you want to
Yeah.
stay here? Like
Yeah.
maybe we should be looking at some safer things. Does your mom still live in a two-story house and she's got things going on with her knees or she's got bad arthritis? Is it time to downsize? Is it time to move things
Mhm.
around? Before a crisis is always best. And
Always
from
best.
a place of caring and
Mhm.
trying not to be judgmental,
Yeah.
and not that you want to be the authority, but you want to be a support to what their wish
Mhm.
is
Sure.
my suggestion.
And right, all wonderful points and practical. But I would add also, just to, again, in the beginning of that, you had shared, hey mom, have you ever thought of? We
Yeah.
both know that they have. They've thought of it. They've
I
seen.
don't know. Some people don't seem to think about it,
I
Brian. They don't want to think about it. I know.
yeah. So it's crossed their mind at a minimum.
Right.
How long are they going to live? What happens if there's a capacity decline? What happens if
Sure.
there's a physical decline? And they may not have gotten into details, but it's something I think all of us are aware of.
Yeah.
We just don't want to necessarily address it.
Yeah.
And as you very appropriately said, you want to address it before the crisis, because if it's a crisis, then things are going to happen where the parent is not going to necessarily know what's happening, and it's going to cause much more stress. I say all the time, a crisis will always be more stressful. A crisis will always cost more money. A crisis will always have less options.
Absolutely.
If you plan in advance and know the players and what's going to happen and have your house protected and who's going to pay for care and who's going to help with decisions if necessary, planning in advance, less stress, less cost, and more options. Okay, so
Absolutely.
yeah, it's just life, but human nature tends to help us head in the sand.
Yeah.
So respectfully try to have those conversations before the crisis occurs.
Yeah,
um,
and again, I wouldn't do it when there's a million people around,
right,
the
and
Thanksgiving
don't make it, it's not
table.
about the money either. It's not about that.
No,
Don't
it's not
start
about
with
the
that.
money. It's about how somebody is doing and
And
are they thriving and are they doing well? And
yeah,
it's just we check in with our friends, right? So we want to check in with our parents too.
yeah,
How are you feeling? What's going on with you? What they have stress as well. And I think a lot of times that we're not always aware that we need to do that for our loved ones.
right, and you don't need to solve the whole issue in one conversation.
Correct.
It can happen over time.
And I think that's the better way because when you do things gradually,
Yeah,
then it becomes more palatable. Like you
yeah,
said, you want to tackle everything at once. It's even, with your children, you do the same kind of thing. If it's
yeah.
like big decisions to be made, we just chip away at it.
Mm-hmm.
So, start with the health stuff. Make
Mm-hmm.
sure that they're seeing the doctors regularly and they're on the right medications
Yeah.
and all of that. And then, you can see what the mobility
Mm-hmm.
situations like. I mean, you probably want to make sure that they're still feeling comfortable paying their bills and those kind of financial
Yeah.
concerns as well. It's not something we usually talk to our parents about
Right.
unless we're financially driven ourselves, but it's just a good check-in, how
Absolutely.
how you do and do you need help? And if they need assistance in any of these areas,
Mm-hmm.
if you haven't already reached out to an elder attorney, that's a great time to have a consultation and speak to somebody. That's what we do.
And
And
not
that's
just
why I
any
talk
elder
about it to
attorney.
everybody.
Yeah.
No, I mean, even myself, I only recently got my own documents done. I didn't realize the importance of it because I feel like I'm young and, that's just something for an older individual, but it's really not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Health crisis can happen at any time, and
And we've seen that.
we
We've had
have
some
clients that are
very,
younger too.
yeah, we've had some very
So
vibrant 90-year-olds, and we've had some, unfortunately, some very ill 60-year-olds.
right.
So,
So I'm out there talking to all my friends and family and all my nurse friends that I worked with for many years because, again, we always worry about everybody else and not ourselves. But we have to think about, if something happens to us, what is the plan? Plan B. You just said
yes.
about a plan B. We need to talk about, and sometimes there's a C and a D too, but we have to talk about at least plan A and plan B and make sure
Absolutely.
that we have some kind of semblance of
Mhm.
a plan. We can modify it, but we need to have a basis.
Good, good, absolutely. All right, so one of our last questions here. Um, let's say mom's at home. Mom's been declining a little bit. We've got 3 children.
Okay.
You got one local, maybe one's a little further, and then one's a little further. How are there certain strategies or ways to get the children to communicate properly and get on the same page? What if because we've had every color of the rainbow here as far as
Sure.
different perspectives with our children. But if you have one child who's there every day, they're the ones that know mom or dad the most, and usually.
Yeah.
And if you have a child who's over in Oregon State saying, "Don't you dare put mom in a nursing home," which
Yeah.
happens,
It
right?
does.
So talk about the dynamics with children and decision making and agreements and disagreements.
That's so hard.
Yeah.
I would love to say that every single family just sees eye to eye on everything and gets along, but it does not happen that way all the time.
Right.
So again, we can't plan around the individual. We have to talk to the
Hmm.
the individual about what their
Sure.
plan is.
Yep.
Sometimes there is a kid that is very involved and the main person, but we have to worry about caregiver burnout as well. So when we meet with our families, we want to find out what the family dynamics
Hmm.
are and who is involved and who's not. Some people want to be more involved and some people don't want to be involved, and the rest of the team is okay with that as well.
Right.
So first, let's get the lay of the land. Who's involved, who wants to be involved,
Yep.
and then the people that are involved, are they happy with their level of involvement? Because just because one person is doing it all doesn't mean that they're happy about it. Maybe they need some help too, and the
Sure.
other people aren't aware of that.
Hmm.
So we have to talk about all of that. If when you're talking specifically about disagreements, that really has to come back to the individual. What does the individual want?
Hmm.
Because if the individual is okay with it's okay that I go to a nursing home because I don't want to burden my family and I really need all these needs. But the son in Oregon doesn't want you to. Well, it's really not up to you. The,
Yeah.
the, the plan is mom's plan, and we need to support that plan. And for somebody that's not going to actually be able to provide the
Hmm.
care,
Hmm.
it's really hard to say. But, we have people that speak like that all the time. We have to educate people though too. Because people don't always know the differences in the levels of care and
Hmm.
what can be achieved at
Hmm.
home
Hmm. Hmm.
or in certain facilities. There's assisted
Yep.
livings, there's
Yep.
enhanced licensed assisted livings,
Hmm.
nursing homes, adult homes, things like that. So the key is, I think, to identify the players, who's involved with what,
Hmm.
is the involvement the level that they're happy with, the
Hmm.
individual, are they happy with the plan? And then talk about what can be done where. And provide education and resources as necessary because certain things just can't be done or is so challenging to
Or
do it
just not safe. Yeah.
or yeah, just not safe. I
Hmm.
mean, pretty much we can get pretty much everything done at home now in this day and age. There are services that can provide, but some of them are covered by, like you were talking about, Medicaid, and some are not.
Hmm.
So it depends on resources. It's a complicated question that we'd have to dive into on an
Always.
individual level. But I think that again, it's not going to be solved in one conversation. We need to make sure that everybody's aware of what the needs are
Hmm.
and what the client wants is need to be at the forefront. As long as that client can make their own decisions
Hmm.
and needs known, we have to abide by that plan, even if it may not be what somebody else thinks the plan should
in the
be.
family.
They have the right to, direct the care until
Well
they no
put.
longer can.
Well said.
And that's what we have to honor.
Yeah. Yeah, and honor is an interesting word. We have that in our logo, honor, right? Our clients,
Yes,
honor their decisions, honor their wishes, and then protect. Do what we can to protect the family, protect the assets, protect our client. So with that said, Raina, thank you. This has been very helpful, and I think we've been able to share again the heart of elder care and why this life care planning service and the way that we operate is truly looking at the whole person and often what's best for the family, versus a simple transaction, which a lot of families unfortunately have to go through. So,
yeah.
so if there's any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. I don't see any in the Q&A box right now, but please feel free to let us know if there's any questions. Even after this, if you have a question. So Tully Law Group is our website. We offer free consultations to talk about asset protection and estate planning, and of course, elder care and life care planning. And it'll be our honor to help. So please reach out if we can help. Thank you again, Raina, and we will see you guys again next month. All right. Thank you. Bye.